I hate you. I didn't ask you to sacrifice for me. I just want to save you, Mother. I'm not going to live just like you. We are not going to be like my parents, right? Don't hurt me, please. Oh dear. Oh dear.
When did Mother's silence start? My name is Evelyn, born in 1961 in Glen Cove. In the earliest moments of my memory, life was filled with beauty. At that time, my mother always took me for walks along the shoreline. Sometimes we would chat aimlessly, and sometimes we would remain silent and just stare out to sea, looking out over the distant horizons. At times like this, my thoughts gradually settle, and I feel a profound sense of relief and relaxation. The world was vast, and the future seemed so bright. My father was very busy and was often away from home. But no matter how busy he would always find time to organize a party for me on my birthday every year. At other times, like some holidays, if he just couldn't find the time to come home, he would at least send me a gift. What a happy time it was. What a beautiful family we had. But since when has it changed? Though I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back now, puberty has a huge impact on a person. it will quietly change your personality and make the emotions around you easier to perceive. Like from one day, the extra silence in my mother's eyes as she looks out to ocean. I knew something had happened. Something had definitely happened. But I couldn't grasp what it was. That made me so angry. Trust me, there is no a teenager willing to admit that there are things in this world they don't understand. What made me even angrier was that Mother grew more silent with each passing day. She was there in body, but her heart seemed to be somewhere else entirely. I couldn't understand it. My family never really had to worry about money. We had such good living conditions, and she didn't even have to work. As a housewife, not even doing the housework. How could she be so gloomy like that every day? If there was something she wasn't happy with, why not try to change it? In every day there, she just doing nothing but sighing and wasting time. No matter how much I tried to persuade her, she just kept silent and didn't say a word. Until one day, my father took me and Mother to a restaurant by the seaside for dinner. That day, my mother seemed unusually agitated. Occasionally, she would lift her gaze toward the distant sea, only to quickly lower her head again, as though some inner struggle were unfolding within her. Her behavior irritated me. So, as usual, I began to urge her to change. But all of a sudden, she started breaking down and crying. I was too scared to say a word. It was the first time I'd ever seen my mother so devastated. After that day, I never tried to persuade her of anything. But at the same time, I've decided I don't want to live like her. So, as soon as I was an adult, I left there and took a boat to New York. On the boat, I began to dream of my new life. I thought that with my own abilities, I would soon rise to prominence. Because I knew I was someone who would fight until the end for the life I wanted, not someone who would sit idly by, sighing and lamenting. Yet, even with that determination, once I truly began facing the world on my own, I quickly realized that things in this world weren't as easy as I had imagined. First of all, the apartment was very small, yet the rent was ridiculously high. Next, I was shocked at how many little tasks there were just to manage a home. Endless laundry, never-ending trash. All the big and small tasks had to be handled by me alone. What made it worse was, no matter how carefully I revised my resume or how actively I attended interviews, I just couldn't find a job. Many times, during the interviews, I hadn't even had a chance to speak before they told me I wasn't the person they were looking for. One time, I couldn't take it anymore, so I asked him why. He didn't even lift his head, just simply said,
"You're a woman."
I came home, lay in bed looking at the room. Yesterday's unwashed dishes are still in the sink, and the garbage can is overflowing. Worse is, the money my father gave me when I left home was running out. When he gave it to me, I was naive enough to think I don't need it. I could earn it myself. Nothing makes you face reality faster than the situation right in front of you. Suddenly, I started seriously wondering if I should give up and return home. Then, the look of my mother looking out to ocean comes to my mind. The look which thinking about what the life she hadn't had might have looked like. And I got up, cleaned the dishes in the sink, picked up the newspaper and continued to look for a job offer. 3 days later, I got a job as an opera house conductor. To be honest, I never thought I'd end up doing that kind of job. But I was happy, because I finally had a job at least. Even though the salary was low, but during that time, from the first few days when I was always accidentally giving the wrong tickets because I didn't double-check the venues, turned into I can handle all kinds of problems with ease. It's very rewarding to watch my own progress every day. After about 3 months, there were nothing hard for me anymore. Because of my good performance, my supervisor would often give me complimentary tickets for shows. I was in the school choir in high school, so I was interested in these. And since there wasn't much left of my paycheck after rent and food, I could hardly do much else. So the opera became my main pastime. At first, because the lyrics weren't in English, I didn't understand what the hell it was at the end of the show. But after watching it more often, I started to care less about what the lyrics were and tried to appreciate the emotion conveyed by the music itself. Though, each opera has its own story, but the story wasn't what important to me. What important was the glimpses of my own life that I saw from the performances. I'm not the only one who's ever felt those things, but there are others who understand too. It makes one feel less alone. Since we all work outside the home and spend a lot of time together every day, it didn't take long for my supervisor, Steve, and I to become a couple. He noticed my interest in opera, so he put me in charge of something about logistics. There were a few other boys working in logistics at the time, so I had very little work. Most of the time, I just stayed backstage and watched the actors rehearse. Watching up close gave me a lot of opportunities to learn. During their rehearsals, I would try to learn a few lines of opera along with them. At first, I just sang for fun. But one day, after rehearsal, I sang opera while cleaning as usual. I remember I was practicing a clip from Madame Butterfly. When I got to the end of the song, I walked up to the center of the stage and gave a curtain call salute like the actors did. Suddenly, the audience resounded with the applause of a man. When I took a closer look, it was the voice teacher who usually guides the actors. I instantly felt hot all over my face, and I'm sure my neck turned red. When I was just about to run away, he called out to me.
Have you considered becoming an opera singer?
I beg your pardon?
You have a natural gift. Your voice. It carries something special. Why not take it further?
But I never formally learned to sing.
Technique can be learned, but vocal talent cannot, and you just happen to have it.
I didn't know what to say. Was this just a kind gesture, or was he serious? He seemed to sense my hesitation.
If you're willing, I would be more than happy to help you improve your technique.
How should I describe that moment? It was like a brand new door suddenly appearing before me, waiting to be opened. I knew very clearly in that moment my destiny was about to change. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. One has to do what one is good at. Once I started going with my destiny instead of against it, life became much easier. Very soon, my skill level improved dramatically. With my teacher's instruction, I can clearly feel my improvement with every practice. Those high notes that initially seemed out of reach gradually became easily controllable, and the tone became more rounded and expressive.
You've made great progress, Evelyn. Your technique is already impressive, but there's something missing in your voice. Opera is an art born out of pain. It's not enough to hit the right notes or follow the music. You have to live in the pain. You must live in the pain, in the longing in every note you sing. And only then can you truly resonate with your audience. But it's okay. Life is about taking your time. You've done a great job. Try to be more mindful of life. I'm sure you'll have a great debut.
At the time, I couldn't understand the kind of pain my teacher was talking about. Although I've had some difficulties in my life, but they were nothing compared to the deep pain and unspeakable sadness he describes. Yet I'm still happy, so I shared the good news with Steve. But he didn't look very happy. He just listened in silence, and his eyes wandered. So I stopped talking.
What?
Nothing. I'm just worried.
Worried for what?
I don't know. Eve, you've been so focused on this opera thing, it's all you talk about now, yet what about us?
I don't know why. Even we were still standing together. But all of a sudden, I felt like he was so far away from me. So I turned away. For times, I didn't speak to him again. I devoted more time to practicing opera, tried to get rid of my inner confusion and restlessness. And then soon, the day of the first appearance on stage arrived. That day, I was nervous. And there was still some time left before I went on stage. So I grabbed a yellow jacket and went down the street for a little distraction. Didn't get very far. I saw Steve walking close to a girl. My breathing suddenly became rapid. The scene in front of me became blurred. I went up to him and asked him what he was doing. Then he turned to leave. I grabbed him, but he started beating me. I grabbed the back of his head with my hand and begged him not to hurt me, but he didn't stop. In the course of the fight, I lost a chunk of my hair. I was pushed to the ground by him. My ears started ringing because my head hit the ground. I thought I was going to be beaten to death by him, but somehow, I just felt a gust of wind, and then his movement stopped. I got up, then saw him fall under the wheel some distance from me. The girl who with him had her mouth open. Seems like she was screaming. I don't know how I walked back to the opera house. All my memories after that are muddled for me. All I remember is I got on stage in a daze and got to the police station after the show explained what happened. And the next day, the newspaper reported the success of my debut were all over New York. Even I didn't realize it at the time, but I have to admit that a large part of my success that day was due to Steve's betrayal and death. It deepened my understanding of pain in a very short time. Although I paid a lot for it later, but eventually, that thing ended. After I achieved success, I found that I started to think things in a different way. I began to make few demands on other people, and even fewer attempts to interfere with their behavior. I don't know why, but the change just happened. After the busiest period of my newfound fame, at the end of one day's performance, I asked my teacher the question that had been on my mind for a long time.
Honestly, why did you pick me at that time? Don't tell me it's really just because I have a good voice.
because you feel like someone I met a long time ago.
I don't know why, but I suddenly thought of my mother and the way she looked at the ocean. Because there weren't any more gigs around that time, so I went home. My mother was sitting on the terrace looking at the ocean. It's strange. She doesn't look the same as I remember. Has she always been this tiny? She turned around, looked happy to see me.
I can understand you now.
What kind of attitude did I have faced her, made she was so touched by such a small bit of kindness?
You've grown up.
Life is but a fleeting dream, like a delicate illusion. Memories flow like water, carried away by the passing years.